Well, we made it to Friday, everybody. Welcome in to the final edition of Morning Jocks for this week, at least. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour. And man, oh man, do we have some things to get into. This is supposed to be the week where nothing happens. That's kind of our joke here is you have SEC media days and everyone gets really excited and we all are super pumped up for college football. And then we kind of forget that there's really like a week or so afterwards where nothing happens. And then you really start to get into it once, it turns to August and everyone starts to feel it a little bit. But yet you have a little bit of that high of media days and a little bit of a lull. And then it's full steam ahead for college football season. And thank you for a number of conferences for giving us things to talk about this week. Unfortunately, we have had some very sad news this week as well with Ozzy Osbourne passing away. Of course, you had Hulk Hogan yesterday, and some others as well. And it's just there's been a lot going on. But one thing that I did not have on my bingo card, Damien, for this week was not only the possibility of losing the Stallions here in Birmingham, but the possibility of the SEC adding another school to the conference in the somewhat near future. I'm not saying not saying this is going to happen next year or anything, but in the next 5 years or so, potentially we could have new member in the SEC, and that's where we'll start off today. If you missed the, I guess, story that broke yesterday, the rumors that were circulating, um, based on a story that came from Inside Carolina, which is their 247 fan site, and it essentially it just stated that there have been discussions at North Carolina about interest in leaving the ACC and ultimately joining the SEC. I don't think that's going to be necessarily a massive surprise to anybody. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were going through this with Clemson and Florida State and some others because they were all upset with how things were going in the ACC. They weren't getting enough money and they were going to force their way out. They filed lawsuits. They were going to try to force their way out of the conference. And ultimately, they came to an agreement. Hey, we're going to pay y'all more money than the other schools because we get it. You carry a little more of the weight. And that kind of was meant to keep them happy until, the 2030s when their media deal would run up. And that's kind of when it seemed that these schools would have an opportunity to leave. And now we have North Carolina and this report that came from Inside Carolina, the website. But apparently, there have been discussions at North Carolina about a move away from the SEC, ACC, into the SEC sometime in the near future. Some of the reports say that this would maybe happen around the 2030 season, so that would be 5 years from now. And if that were to ultimately happen, it would cost them about $75 million to exit the conference and be able to join the SEC, which is significantly less than, when you're talking about Florida State and Clemson, and man, you might have to be paying like $200 million to get out of a conference potentially. That number will drop to $75 million in the 2030-2031 academic year there for North Carolina. So that seems to be the popular the popular time frame, I guess, that you could see something like this happen. So as it stands right now, okay, I stand corrected. The actual number right now, if they were to leave this year, is $165 million. So it'll drop by $90 million over the next 5 years. So I think you can see why they might be trying to hold on a little bit, Damien, before they ultimately make any of that happen. But of course, there were reports along with this that their drafting partner, or I guess rumor was that their drafting partner would be Clemson, and that's who ultimately would come to the SEC with North Carolina if this happened, right? And who knows? The SEC might not even be interested in that. I think you'd probably have a conversation, but I'm not Greg Sankey. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think we all would agree that North Carolina would be a welcome addition to the conference. But based on what I was, some information that was relayed by Pat Smith to me last night, because I know he's been doing some digging around trying to kind of get a read on all of this. I was actually told that it would maybe be more likely that Virginia or NC State would be that second school that would come over instead of a Clemson or an FSU. That doesn't mean that Clemson or FSU couldn't ultimately end up in the SEC one day, or even in a deal with North Carolina or something. But I would think, and Virginia would be the one that would make the most sense to me, right? Because has very high academic standards, very good baseball program, good basketball program. But it would look very good for the conference to have another university like Virginia that would be kind of, and maybe a similar category to a Vanderbilt or closer to a Vanderbilt. And of course, we know North Carolina. We'll see how this football experiment goes with Belichick, but very rich history of basketball. Granted, not against teams from the state of Alabama in recent years, but I think we would take that. And baseball, good baseball program historically as well. So be very interesting to see. But that's the big rumor. That's the big report last night is that North Carolina has started exploring an opportunity to leave the ACC for the SEC. So when you saw this news yesterday, Damian, what was kind of your immediate thought or your immediate reaction on North Carolina?
I'm not gonna say it shocked me because I mean, even when we were going through kind of the early discussions on realignment, North Carolina's name was usually kind of brought up, but most of the time it was just like a package deal. Oh, it's North Carolina and somebody else. The fact that North Carolina was open, like, well, now it's like very open. Like, yeah, North Carolina shopping it a little bit just to see, which is cool. And for the SEC, you're reaching another market. Like you're reaching into North Carolina side of things, and with the tradition and history that program brings as far as athletics, it's very beneficial. And to hear, of course, like we would love Clemson just from the competitive side of things, especially in the football front, but adding like a Virginia or NC State as well with it, I would lean more Virginia because again, that's another market that you're reaching. That's another state that you could definitely bring into the fold.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at it from I look at it from Florida State's perspective of, man, you must not be as important as you think you are. Like it's one thing that it just makes logical sense that Florida State should have already been in the SEC just geographically.
Well, they had an opportunity to, and they didn't take it.
Right. And now it's almost like Florida State has missed their window entirely. Like that was a one-time thing where it's only going to change moving forward. And if you don't hop on it now, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to get this opportunity again. And it's leaning more towards like you're never going to get that opportunity again because all these other schools have at least shown interest and it's worth the discussion.
Well, and the reality too is, who's going to be not very happy if that were to happen, right? Florida, and then for Clemson to be South Carolina, right? Both of those schools are going to look at it and go, why do we want to bring them into the conference, right? It's the same thing with Texas A&M. They didn't want Texas to come to the SEC, right? You want to be the one school kind of in your region, in your state that is in the SEC, and you can use that against every other program in recruiting, right? And that's your selling pitches. Hey, you want to come play in the best conference in college football where the most players go to the NFL? Great. Well, then you're going to want to come to our school instead of this school in the Big 12 or the ACC or what have you. So definitely going to be interesting, again, just as because we all know it's coming eventually, right? Like the SEC, the Big 10, probably the other conferences as well. Like they're all going to continue to expand in the future. It's just a matter of, how quickly does this happen? And what is that ultimate number, right? Do we ultimately get to 20 team conferences? How does all of that work? It'll be fascinating to watch how it plays out, but it's just with everything else going on in college football, with the college football playoff and conference scheduling and things like that. I'll be honest, like I hadn't even thought about conference realignment anymore. I was like, man, okay, at least that's the one thing that it's we're putting that on the back burner for a few years, and then you get a story like this, and it's, again, based on the report, they were talking about, maybe in the 2030 season, so again, 5 years from now, ACC school like North Carolina, so we've got some time, but, I mean, if we're already talking about it now,
right,
we're going to be talking
about it again.
Probably going to be talking about it for a little while there. So I'd be curious to hear from y'all though. 205-834-9450 on the courtesy GMC text line. What are your thoughts on North Carolina potentially joining the SEC in the future? Is that a school that you would welcome into the conference? You'd be excited to see that Carolina blue in the SEC? And who would you want to come with them? Do you want Clemson? Do you want Florida State, Virginia, NC State? Whoever. I don't know. Maybe you want Maybe you want Syracuse. I don't know.
No.
Whoever I'm just people have different strokes for different folks, right, Damien? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
SMU, even though they just got there, but
Well, we don't need more Texas.
Well, Stanford and Cal, get Brian Harsin back over here. Let's stretch this, makes this thing worldwide.
No. No. And I think, and again, I think something that we have to keep in mind when these discussions come up, not saying that it couldn't change in the future, but the SEC does love to pride itself on the fact that all of the schools here you're not flying to the West Coast to play, women's tennis in the spring, right? Like that's a big talking point for the SEC, and I think they're going to want to maintain that. So, going to be interesting again to see what the future of conference realignment holds for not only the SEC, but the other conferences as well. But you can chime in with your thoughts, 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the courtesy GMC text line and tell us who you want to see in the SEC alongside North Carolina, potentially in the somewhat near future. And we will read your reaction to that throughout the show. But we have some other things going on in the world of sports, but also college sports in general, including the President of the United States and his attempt to fix some of the NIL issues that have been plaguing college athletics. But does it actually mean anything? We'll tell you all that next on Morning Jox. I'm gonna sound really dumb if I guess who this is and I'm wrong. I don't know. It reminds me of like Tech Nine or something.
No, he said his name, Petey Pablo.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's all good.
not familiar with.
Nah,
Not familiar. I
Freak League?
apologize. No, sorry.
Oh yeah, but yeah, he's from North Carolina. If you didn't know.
Well, I did. I certainly picked up on that part, but
But Tech Nine, he's from Kansas City, Missouri.
okay. See, I knew he was from some random
KC Mo.
place like that. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of him either, but to each their own. But appreciate y'all tuning in to Morning Jocks this morning. Conrad and Damien here with you. And we spent the first part of the show talking about the story that came out yesterday about North Carolina potentially joining the Southeastern Conference in the near future. And we wanted to get some of y'all's thoughts, and you can continue to chime in there on the text line with who you'd like to see join the SEC alongside North Carolina, potentially in the future. Obviously, nothing's set in stone as far as that goes. But there was another big piece of college football news yesterday, and that was the news that President Donald Trump has signed into effect an executive order aimed at helping out college athletics from a financial standpoint, mainly when it comes to NIL and things of that nature. So it's titled the President Donald J. Trump Saves College Sports Executive Order. I don't think that name should be a surprise to anybody.
It's a mouthful, but yeah.
That is exactly what I would expect a Donald Trump executive order on college athletics to be named. But generally, I guess the general idea of this is that it hopes to set out specific guidelines to preserve athletic scholarships based on athletic departments' annual revenues, and it also is aimed at. It's basically telling schools, hey, you can't have third-party entities coming in here and offering pay to play, right? You can't have guys coming in here, boosters, stroking checks to go and get recruits. You can't do that. Well, you're not supposed to do that anyways, and that was kind of the whole thing with NIL is how do you get around this loophole of, well, it's not technically a third-party, pay for play because, well, they're endorsement deals, right? They're getting something out of this, whether it's a social media post or a you come eat at their restaurant or whatever. And I think we all know pretty quickly that kind of, I'm just saying, I never saw Jackson Dart doing a commercial for his private jet. He just kind of had that private jet from what I understand. So I'm just saying, I think we all kind of saw how it worked in reality versus what, maybe it was supposed to be or how, people thought that it would ultimately end up. And so with all that being said, yes, it is an executive order signed by the president that does, raise people's eyebrows. It gets your attention a little bit, right? But I mean, the reality of it is it's just essentially telling you, hey, don't do the thing that you're all doing and have been doing for a long time and hiding and lying about it. Yeah, just don't do that. Okay, well, people are going to continue to do the same things that they have already done. And so now that you kind of have this back and forth with the ruling a couple of days ago that essentially collectives can continue to operate the way that they did in the past, it's hard for me to see where any actual change is going to happen in the immediate future. It really does feel like even with the $20.5 million cap, but if the collectives are still kind of able to do their thing, like, we're going to be talking next year about how Texas or somebody spending $30 million on a roster when it was only supposed to be 20.5. And guess what? Nothing's going to happen to them.
That was the first thing I thought of. It was like, okay, so what if somebody goes over this? Are they
who's going to enforce it?
Yeah, like are they subject to fines? Like, are we talking about jail time now? Because it could be now we're getting to the political side of things. And I was just like, okay, so if your school has the ability to get more than that, that 20.5, it's like, who's going to stop them? Like, what is going to stop them from also just bringing it all in? Like, sorry that we found an advance on our collective on our budget, but like you said, if you're the Texas A&M, like we just saw that Texas A&M was bringing in over $50 million. So it's like, who's going to stop this?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to enforce these rules? Because again, it's going to be even bigger separation between the haves and the have-nots at that point. Because to me, there's always going to be a workaround. Like if they try to have it under the gaze of, like, hey, I made a charitable donation. Okay, that charitable donation was $40 million. And it's like, okay, we'll see what we can do. So I don't know exactly what this is going to really look like and how they're going to truly make this thing right for all schools involved. Like, that's the thing, because I mean, if you're, like Vanderbilt, you don't necessarily have to report it because you're a private school. So it's like, oh, how did Vanderbilt get these new jerseys again this week? Like, okay, well, wonder where this money's going. How did they sign a 5-star? You start to wonder, and it's like, okay, well, there's some workarounds. I don't know exactly how this is going to, quote unquote, level the playing field, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we all understand that the reality of this is it's going to go one of two ways, in my opinion, right? You're either whatever financial guidelines or whatever structure you have in place in college athletics, people are always going to do one of two things. They're going to find loopholes around the system so that they can have an advantage, or as we've kind of talked about a little bit in recent, we kind of joked about it in recent weeks, but you're going to have like the return of, the quote unquote bag man at schools, right? Because there are schools that are going to be able to offer more than $20.5 million a year, and there are going to be schools that get desperate one year and decide we really need to turn this program around, and we are going to put a lot of money behind it and make that happen, and we need to find a way to kind of keep that on the down low. Like, regardless of how it is, people have always cheated. I know that's a crazy concept maybe for some people to understand, but people have always cheated. They're always going to cheat. There's no way around it. That's just it's human nature, and people looking for an advantage in any way that they possibly can in a super super competitive field. It is what it is. And so again, sounds nice. You have the president, signing executive order. That's fine and dandy, but I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a big nothing burger. And maybe I'm wrong, but I find it hard to believe that. Yeah, I can't imagine that's really going to ultimately lead to a massive amount of change. But
Right.
we'll see.
See, who would have thought that, in the year 2025, we'd actually be missing the old Jeremy Pruitt route of just throw it in the McDonald's bag.
Yeah,
It was easier then.
there was an art to it.
It was. I miss those days, because now nothing makes sense anymore.
Yeah,
It's just, the bag may be a little bit heavier now because of, inflation and things like that, but it was a lot easier when they could just put it in the bag and say, hey, be quiet until you get your degree.
Well, and I think, one of the telling things for me, and who knows, maybe they were just, being vague because they don't, want to publicly speak on it. But last week at Media Days, I think every coach that I heard, or just about every coach I heard, when they were, doing their, questions with the media, and you're sitting there listening to them, and I'm pretty sure they all got asked a question along the lines of, how are y'all navigating, this new house settlement, or what's your understanding of the house settlement? And every single person, every single coach said, yeah, we don't really know. Oh, okay, great. So I'm sure that's going to go over swimmingly. So again, if you're just now joining us, President Trump, he signs an executive order yesterday aimed at kind of putting some guardrails around NIL and the pay for play opportunities that could still arise in college athletics. But as we know, that stuff's still going on. So probably not going to ultimately lead to a whole lot. But we have somebody that chimes in on the Courtesy GMC text line, just like you can, 205-834-9450. They say, how about this? If you get caught going over the budget, then the next year you have to give every school in your conference that same amount that you went over.
Each school?
Yeah, I don't think that would ever happen, but it's a brutal punishment.
Absolutely.
It would get some attention.
It would spark change.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, I don't know. I guess it would be kind of like a luxury tax, right? Like you have in professional sports, it just goes to the other programs potentially. That would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, as I've not to, I wish I could say that this gave you optimism for the future and that things were going to get better, but I just don't know what could happen at this point in college athletics that would make us go, oh yeah, that's going to work. That's going to stick. I mean, everything's changing so rapidly, and that's just the way that things are going to be now, and we have to adjust and get used to it. And thank God the actual games start in a month, and we can talk about something other than NIL, transfer portal, conference schedules, college football playoff format. Like, let's just play the darn football games and see what the product on the field looks like and talk about that, because that's what we all love about college athletics. It's just unfortunate that all this other stuff is like a primer. Like you have to, go get a damn master's degree in a lot of this stuff to feel like you have an understanding and you can even tell your friends and family about what's going on in college athletics. So it's a crazy time, certainly. and we will keep you up to date on anything going on there with the executive order on college athletics. But we also had some big news earlier on that we talked about, and that is the report about North Carolina exploring a move to the SEC in, I don't know, the next 5-6 seasons, somewhere in that timeline. And a lot of you have chimed in with your thoughts on who you would like to see join North Carolina in the SEC. And so we will get to your text, your calls, and much, much more here coming up on the Friday edition of Morning Jocks. .631. Welcome back into Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damien with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. I guess we'll just call it McElroy in the morning now.
Yeah.
Cole will be back on Monday.
He'll be back. Yeah.
He'll be back on Monday. But I know you have had a fun week with Greg here this week, and so that will continue from 7 to 10 on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Then I will be back from 10 to 2 with Three Man Front alongside Pat Smith and Landrum Roberts as Molly Robinson taking a little bit of time off today. And then, of course, the Paul Feinbaum Show from 2 to 6 as you have it each and every day here on Jox. So we were going into the big stories of the day. First off, you had the executive order signed by President Trump, which maybe sounds nice, but at the end of the day, as we kind of told you last segment, probably doesn't mean a whole lot in terms of actually holding schools accountable if they do ultimately go the pay-for-play route and find, kind of these loopholes to get around the $20.5 million House settlement cap that we are now operating under. And then you also had the news yesterday about North Carolina and them exploring a potential move to the SEC in the near future, leaving the ACC behind. And so we asked you, who would you want to see come into the SEC with North Carolina as a drafting partner? And a lot of you sending in your take. I know a lot of people probably, maybe your first thought is Clemson or FSU, right? In terms of, I guess those are the bigger brands. Maybe Miami would be in there in that mix for you as well. But as I shared earlier, I was told last night that, Virginia and NC State would probably be more likely candidates to potentially join North Carolina in the SEC. So to the Courtesy GMC text line we go, where Chris chimes in and says, I would rather Duke come with North Carolina to keep that rivalry going. Duke is a great school academically, great at basketball, and they've actually been pretty decent in football lately. Can't argue with that. Had a good year in baseball as well.
Yeah, they're in everything school.
There's a lot of those. I feel like a lot of people want to be everything schools now. But yeah, Duke, that would certainly be interesting. I understand. I guess I could see where, from the NC State perspective, you're probably like, man, you really gonna abandon us like this? Like maybe bring us with you. Obviously, with Virginia, you get to expand into a new state that you're not already in. But Duke's certainly an interesting one there. And yeah, I think we know the value they bring on the basketball court and academically, mainly there. Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones. He chimes in on the text line. He goes Virginia Tech in North Carolina. That's who he wants to see.
I wouldn't mind seeing Tech.
No. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Drake, he chimes in, says the same thing. I want UNC and Virginia Tech. Let's see. Oh, Bama Hater chimes in. The somewhat entitlement conference. I guess that's what he thinks the SEC means. But the somewhat entitlement conference is actually the scariest bully in sports. By the way, I don't know what that has to do with literally anything we've talked about this morning. And then he chimes in. He says, the president needs to stop using college football and NIL as his latest distraction. Yes, I do like politics. Jox is the political campaign headquarters for all things Alabama football. Thank you for chiming in this morning.
Roll Tide.
Bama Hater. I'm sure he's just upset. I'd genuinely be curious, Bama Hater, if the SEC extended an invitation to Miami, would you even be willing to accept it? Because I honestly think that he is so blinded by hatred and so just, yeah, like he wouldn't even consider the fact that would be the greatest thing that could possibly happen to Miami athletics. And I really think he's just so blinded by hatred that he wouldn't even. He'd be, oh no, we don't need the SEC. Okay, go.
It'll help.
Well, maybe they could actually win something since they haven't won anything since they joined the ACC 21 years ago. Anyways, moving on. Someone says that last song sounded like a North Carolina version of Yellow Wolf.
I feel like you're disrespecting Petey Pablo in that one.
Never a big Yellow Wolf guy either. He's from Coleman, right?
Somewhere in Alabama, but I'm with you.
I think
it was a tough listen.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people bragging about Channing Tatum being from Coleman, not so much the other guy. Let's see. Petey chimes in.
Pablo?
Oh no, sorry. This is Lance. He's saying Petey sounded like mystical. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I can
hear it.
I could hear that for sure. Let's see. Someone chiming in on the text line. They say bring Georgia Tech over with North Carolina so we can have the Georgia and Georgia Tech rivalry be in conference. Okay.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that would be the same thing with Florida State or Clemson, right? Mm-hmm. You would be bringing those conferences into the SEC or those rivalries into the SEC. Let's see. This text coming in from John from Jasper. Add UNC in Virginia. They're the state schools. They add new television viewers and they have money to actually compete in the Southeastern Conference. I think those are very good points there. Let's see. Someone says SEC's taking North Carolina without their little brother Duke. Don't let North Carolina people hear you say that.
No.
They would not take too kindly to that.
Right. Duke actually is an everything school. North Carolina just, they got Bill Belichick.
I was about to say their basketball program, they'd be middle of the pack at best in the SEC right now.
Do you think Hubert Davis wants to see Nate Oates again?
No.
Yeah, right. You think he wants to see him and then it'd be a conference game? Oh, Lord, no.
I'm just waiting for somebody to bring up something I said about Nate Oates earlier this year in North Carolina. But
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Hopefully y'all forgot about that.
They haven't.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm sure someone's going to bring it up. Jimmy chimes in on the text line. He says, need another state in the SEC footprint. Let's go with Virginia. Yep. I do not hate that. Alex chimes in. He says, I want either Virginia Tech or Florida State to join North Carolina. Okay. Let's see. Mad Dog chimes in. He says, North Carolina will be another Vanderbilt of the past. I think
they could fare
historically
decently.
have a better track record in the world of athletics than Vanderbilt. He also adds War Eagle in there. So I just...
Okay.
Alan chimes in. Unfortunately, Alan, this would not work. I don't think, or at least we've never seen this before. He's suggesting what if you do like how in sports you have like a 3-team trade?
Mm-hmm.
Said, well, what if you do a trade to get North Carolina and Oklahoma State?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, don't. I don't want Oklahoma State.
Do not put Mike Gundy in the SEC. Oh, Lord, no.
Okay, quick sidebar. This was a Pat Ponders question yesterday, but Pat asked us if Deion wasn't in the Big 12, who is the face of the Big 12? And I said it's probably Mike Gundy. I'm not saying that that's a great thing. I feel like that's the right answer. Would you agree with that?
No, I'll say Chris Kleiman. He is. He's running that conference. Mike Gundy's just been there longer.
Okay, but who do more people know?
Hopefully they know Chris Kleiman.
Chris Kleiman walks down the road. There's maybe a 1% of Americans that would know who that is. Mike Gundy. A lot of people are going to know who Mike Gundy is.
I do not like that guy.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean that he wouldn't be the face of the league.
No, it'd be Matt Campbell. Because he's up for every job that's open.
Again, how many people
not
could
many
point
people.
Matt Campbell out of the lineup?
Trust me, I just do not want to admit that it is Mike Gundy. I don't like him, man.
It's Mike Gundy. Sorry, it is what it is. Let's see. We have another text coming in. They say Virginia Tech, and West Virginia should all come over with North Carolina. Well, West Virginia is not in the ACC, so that would be tricky. But yeah, Virginia Tech, I think. Let's see. Chris chimes in. Different Chris. Says Miami would be a middle-of-the-pack SEC team at best. Okay. We'll see how good they could be this year. I think Miami's going to be pretty good this year, just like they were last year. Let's see. Walker from Georgia chimes in. Says, being from Georgia, give me Tech and UNC. Okay.
I'd be fine with
Georgia Tech getting some love. And, of course, Brent Key, a local product here. I think a lot of people would be happy to see him in the SEC. Let's see. Landers chimes in. Bama hater sounds scared of the SEC.
I would be.
Let's see. Bama hater. He has chimed in now. He says, my opinion is not hatred. It's just a different opinion than yours. It is a different opinion than literally any other person I've ever heard from in my entire life. But he says, I bet you and every other Bama fan, you hate Texas, Oklahoma, and with a passion, and you hate that they joined, and you probably want Vanderbilt to leave the conference. There's no standard in Tuscaloosa anymore. I do not hate any college football program, well, except Texas A&M, but that's different. That's different. Everyone understands that one. And that's not like from a competitive standpoint. That's just they're annoying. In my personal opinion. But you also did answer the question that I asked you. If Miami, seriously, text in if the SEC today they call down to the University of Miami and they say, hey, we want you to join the SEC the next academic season. Would you want Miami to join the SEC? And I think your answer is probably going to be no, and it's going to be because you realize that you have a better chance to make a college football playoff playing in an ACC that maybe has 2 good teams every year that you're going to have to compete with. But I would love to get your thoughts on that. Eric in Adamsville chimes in. He says, UNC in Maryland. Okay.
Maryland?
That's different.
Maryland.
I would be curious as to why Maryland. Unless I guess maybe you're going the same route of, you're getting into a region that you're not in already. But
Yeah,
I would think I would go Virginia before I went Maryland personally. But
right.
that's certainly
And you
interesting.
think Tony Petitti is going to allow an SEC?
Yeah.
Like you think he's going to let Greg Sankey come into his turf, his trap?
Yeah,
No,
I don't.
absolutely.
I don't
not.
think that's gonna happen. He also says, "Can't believe you're slandering Petey Pablo." I'm sorry, I was not familiar.
It's all good.
I was not familiar. Tom chimes in. Yellow Wolf's from Gadsden, not Coleman. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
That's where my wife's from, or that's where her family's from, at least. I'm sure they listen to Yellow Wolf.
You got to support local, man.
I guarantee you they don't listen to Yellow Wolf. I guarantee you they have no idea who that is. But appreciate all of y'all chiming in. Y'all continue to chime in on the courtesy GMC text line. We'll keep getting some of your thoughts on the potential expansion of the SEC. But let's go to the phone lines real quick. We got a few minutes. Let's go to Poe. Wants to chime in on the potential expansion of the SEC. How we doing, Poe?
Man, good morning, Damon, Miss Conrad. Look, man, I love y'all. I love all Jox family in the morning. But can we please stop, man, because y'all, it's killing me. We don't need no more expansion. We got Texas, Oklahoma. My conference is good. Needless to say, what can I say? A Mississippi State fan. I went 2-10 last year. But I ain't a fan of Bill Belichick. And, that's just me, man. So North Carolina, okay, I'd rather for because, and my thing is this, and I'm going to hang up. When we do this realignment, it takes away from the rivalry games at the end of the year, man, because I don't even think we got Oregon State no more. You know what I'm saying? So Texas, Oklahoma, that's good. I think the SEC is good for what we got now. No more East, West, the top two teams. So North Carolina, I think everybody's saying this because of Bill Belichick. If it wasn't for Bill Belichick, then nobody probably wouldn't even be talking about North Carolina. Your boy Poe ain't a fan of Bill Belichick. I'm just putting that out there. I love y'all. Stay up. Let's play some football. And Mississippi State, I need more than 2 wins this year. I'm out.
There we go. Hail State, baby. Yeah, I'll just say this. And again, I guess the report said that maybe 2030 would be, I guess, the earliest you would see a North Carolina move to the SEC or somewhere else. I will bet, and I guess it's not a lot, but I will bet every dollar in my savings account, in my checking account, in my whatever, that Bill Belichick is not the head coach of North Carolina in 5 years. For one reason or another.
Yeah, you're right.
Not gonna put money on why that is necessarily, but I just feel like for one reason or another, he is not gonna be there for the long haul.
I agree with you.
So I'll be honest, I'll be surprised if he's there in 3 years.
That's kind of where I was going to.
Yeah. So, but we will have to see. He definitely kept it short and sweet yesterday at ACC Media Days. It was just like old Bill back in the Patriot days. You love to see it. So continue to chime in your thoughts on North Carolina conference realignment. Maybe you're like Poe and you're just like, man, this is the last thing that I want to hear about. I don't care who you're bringing over, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, whoever. We don't want them. We're not hearing it. Maybe that's your opinion. So we love to hear from you, 205-834-9450. More reaction on the way here on Jox. Welcome back into Morning Jocks here on your Friday. Hopefully we can get your weekend started off right. Hopefully everyone has a great time as we send you off into McElroy and Kublick in the morning, then Three-Man Front and Paul Feinbaum show, and that'll get you right into your weekend. And we continue to get reaction on the future of conference realignment as the big story in college sports, especially in this part of the country yesterday, involving North Carolina and them expressing some interest maybe internally in leaving the ACC for the SEC. And so back to the Courtesy GMC text line we will go as y'all continue to flood us with your takes on who you would like to see join the league with North Carolina. And we seem to have everyone else revolting against Bama hater at the same time, but we can get to all of that. And as much fun as I am having with this conversation, it does love getting the interaction. Always want to get the interaction. Happy to always engage with our listeners. But I was really looking forward to that Memphis story because if y'all missed the Memphis story, I'm sure you'll get to it on McElroy and Kublick. I know we definitely will on Three-Man Front. But yeah, when you got players sending Instagram DMs of playbooks to opponents and things like that, whoo.
Yeah,
It's been a bad couple weeks for Memphis.
Yeah, that's one of those. I got to put hands and feet on you the next time I see you, big dog. Like, and we lost the game.
Yeah.
And we lost the game.
Yep.
And then to find out, like, wait a minute. There's like, imagine I just picture myself being on the field and looking like, why do they always have a check for everything that we have? Huh. And I'm like, okay, like our signals, like let's switch it up. Like I could see it now having a conversation with my coach of like, hey, let's move the dummy signal to like the other side. Like just let's kind of swap it up. Like make sure green is live this time. Okay. And they still have checks. Then I'm like, all right now, something's up. But
yeah,
it's
you guys
so
think it was
disrespectful.
the player that just got kicked out of the program?
I'm telling you, man, that's
Shocker.
That's a dangerous. That is a dangerous game. You talk about integrity of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is not a good. Like he ain't a good dude.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, if you that was a very vague description of what's going on, but if you're interested, go Google Memphis football and it'll show up. But yeah, they had a former player last year that sent an Instagram DM of their entire playbook to the UTSA quarterback in a game that UTSA would go on to win last season. So yeah, that's a little bit of a interesting story there, but not quite as big as conference realignment. So we go back to the text line where y'all continue to chime in. And we have a text that says, Bama hater would never want Miami to join the SEC. His team can't even win the conference in the weakest Power 4 league there is right now.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it out loud, but there's some truth to that. A lot of truth.
Let's see. Someone else says, okay, this text is confusing me. Something about Bama hater, but he also says West Virginia is the team that thematically plays the most like SEC schools. I don't
think so.
I mean, I have nothing against West Virginia. That's just not one of the schools that's very now. Back in like 2006, yeah, bring
Would
it.
have jumped
Pat
on.
White and Steve Slayton, yeah, bring them on, bring them over,
please.
Bring them over. And coincidentally, they had the same head coach then that they do now. Now,
full circle.
Been two different stints, but
right.
it is the
full
same
circle moment.
Yeah, it's the it is the same guy there. Let's see. Someone someone else chimes in and says, "I'm glad to hear someone else has non-sports related hate for Texas A&M. They're just weird.
They are.
It is truly one of those like if you know kind of things. I feel like and nothing against like I'm sure there are like I actually enjoy John Mack. Like I think he's funny. Now, sometimes, yeah, it's okay. Like we're going a little too far down this path here, but I know Texas A&M fans that I don't necessarily mind. It's more so the idea of them that I don't like. But it's kind of hard to explain. But again, if you know, you know. Antoine chimes in. He says, if it's not Clemson, then we don't want them. Can't be bringing down the conference with teams. Okay,
fair. That's a fair. That's a fair argument.
I can understand that. Let's see. Somebody making okay. So the person that suggested Maryland is they're saying it because of the TV market because the DC area is a top 10 market or top 7 actually.
I mean, it's
market, which I understand. But again, Big Ten's not going to let them go.
No.
And if you forgot that they're in the Big Ten, not the ACC, I do that all the time too. So don't feel bad. Like
You gotta think for a second. Like, oh yeah, they are in the Big Ten.
Well, and my dad's a huge Maryland fan because he's from Maryland, and a lot of my family's from Baltimore, and so I have a lot of memories watching them growing up in the ACC. And I still forget it all the time. Let's see. Someone else chiming in. North Carolina and Virginia would be the way to go, and even Clemson potentially. Don't want FSU or Miami. ACC is right where they belong. Okay. We'll get back to Bama Hater. He chimes back in. He says, joining the SEC is not up to me and doesn't matter because every championship that Miami came with was when they were independent. He says, and then he follows it up by saying, I would like to see Ohio State, Miami, and Clemson join the SEC. How long would it be before Bama won the SEC again if those teams joined? I would say they have just as good of a chance as any of those other programs.
I know what happened the last time I saw Alabama and Ohio State.
Someone said, imagine LSU and Virginia Tech in a night game. That'd be pretty cool.
It'd be tense.
We'll be back Monday at 6 a.m. McElroy and Kublick in the morning.